Hi, I'm Nathan. I go by Peteparker, and every week I do comic book reviews because that's the rule around my house. If I want to keep buying them, I gotta review them online. So this review is the last review for the week. It's going to be X-Men number 13 here, written by Christopher Yost, drawn by both Paco Medina and Dalibor Talajek. I hope I'm saying that right. So there's a heavy amount of flashbacks in this story, and Dalibor draws those, and Paco Medina draws the now version. And I really love Paco Medina's art in this, so let's get into it. The story so far is there's this big group of characters or a species named evolutionaries who were evolved apes from early on in Earth's history, evolved by one of the Eternals, I think, to protect the up-and-coming evolutionary species from being destroyed by the species previous to it. So they have a whole purpose. And they've been doing this the whole time. When Homo sapiens first arrived, they killed the rest of the people that were before them. I forget what they're called. And so they wanted to do the same thing with mutants. When mutants first became big on the scene, they appealed to Charles Xavier and said, we will kill all the humans for you, that way you can you just have to be ready for it or whatever. And Charles is like, no, don't do that, we're trying to live with them, they won't kill us or whatever. And they're like, well, fine, we'll find somebody else who can who can be prepared to be the leader. So they go and find Magneto, and in that's where you're picking up. So in the current time, the evolutionaries have come back to kind of say, you've been given all this time to do what you said you were going to do, and you haven't done it, so now we're just going to kill all the humans, and you will be the dominant species on the planet, and we're going to move forward from here. They did explain a little bit in here why they killed the Neo. They completely destroyed the subspecies of mutants called the Neo, which were actually more powerful mutants than the typical Homo sapiens superior. It says basically that they choose the evolutionary species that has the best chance of survival long term, and right now it's mutants. So you get a lot of cameos in this book also. But they came back to kill Cyclops, and they're still treating Magneto more or less as the one who's speaking for all mutant kind. So the Cyclops was ordered to be taken away, and he's down in a bunker with the new mutants, or new mutants, or young mutants, or whatever you call it, the newest version of X-Men. And he explains that everybody's going to die if he doesn't get up there and talk to these people. And then these people are also talking to Wolverine, who's engaged them, and Storm, and a whole slew of X-Men are all attacking these evolutionaries at the same time, and saying that all they got to do is kill Cyclops and everything will be okay, more or less. Then in the middle of this, you get a flashback to when they first approached Magneto as speaking for all mutants, and Magneto attacks his own kind, which they kind of don't like, and he explains that there's acceptable losses to gain your goal ultimately anyway, and they kind of understand that nowadays. And then it also shows that that Magneto's like, we don't need a telepath to find mutants on the planet, or we don't need Charles Xavier, we can find our own telepath. And so they set out to do that. And then at the same time, the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are really surprised by Magneto attacking Toad, which is the guy that he attacked for speaking out of turn or whatever. And they go to warn. Scarlet Witch sends her brother to go warn the X-Men about who Magneto is going after. So then we see the X-Men trying to figure out a way to stop these evolutionaries, or at least find them, and Beast is trying to do calculations and research, and Professor X is trying to find them psychically, and Jean and Cyclops are brooding over the fact that they're in this big mess, and Cyclops feels really bad about it. And then Quicksilver delivers the message that of who Magneto and the Brotherhood are going to go after next. to fill in their spot, and it turns out to be Emma Frost here, who's in an insane asylum, I guess, which is pretty shocking. We'll talk about exactly why that's weird in a second. And then Magneto shows up with the evolutionaries ready to pick her up or whatever, and the X-Men were already there. So Emma Frost suddenly remembers this in the midst of the fight going on, and Magneto goes to talk to them, and just as he's about to speak to the evolutionaries for the first time in the present, we switch to the X Labs, where all the science team of the X-Men at Utopia are trying to work out ways of fighting the evolutionaries, and they're making progress when they're attacked by Brotherhood members. At the same time that in Cerebro, one of the 3 of 5, the Stepford Cuckoos, is attacked also by, looks like, Bliss and Toad and probably Mask, if I had to guess who those were. And this one is Madison, and I don't know who the other guy is, but they're all Brotherhood members attacking at the same time, so it's a coordinated, planned thing. And then you get a preview of looking right down the cleavage of Emma Frost while she's blonde and is an insane asylum, which is really weird because in this book she was brunette in there and young. And anyway, so the whole point, that was shocking because I've generally read a lot of Emma Frost's flashback stories where they talk about who she was as a kid and her family, and then she had that whole series where she was growing into her powers and stuff. And I don't really remember a spot for that specifically to fit in. Now it could, right? It's been a long time since I've really read a lot of Emma Frost's history, so this could actually fit in with continuity and not be a problem, but it just seems really weird that the first time that the X-Men really met Emma Frost, or they met her here and then forgot about her and then encountered her at the Hellfire Club later, and probably forgot all about this, because there's a lot of memory issues associated with these evolutionaries. Nobody really remembered them at all until they arrived again, and then Scott started getting his memories back, and slowly everybody else is remembering the situation from then. So it's kind of like a memory issue, right? So none of them remember actually meeting Emma Frost when she was a kid and in the insane asylum, when they were all the first team of X-Men. So that's kind of interesting too. But I really, really like this book. I thought it was great. I thought the evolutionaries are a good evil character, or misunderstood evil type character. There's a lot of facets to what's going on in the story, and the art more or less is great. I mean, I much more prefer flashbacks done by a different artist than having a whole nother artist come in and do an issue to give the other artist a break. If they being Marvel, split up stories to where flashbacks or flash forwards or dream scenarios were all done by different artists to kind of take the heat off of the main artist a little bit and let him relax a little bit, that makes total sense to me, and that would be way better than changing artist every single book. So the comparison of that, and the art styles that they picked here too, like Medina's art style is very more modern looking with more modern colors, and Talajek's art is really kind of much more sketchy and looks older, like an older style. So it makes sense to have that be the flashback and this be the current, and it's I think it adds to the story more or less. Now you also get this big bad guy that's the evolutionaries that can wipe out entire species with a single thought. That's great. You've got Magneto being a total badass. You've got all these X-Men working really hard to attack these people together. There was, Storm electrocuting a bunch of them at the same time, and they have scenes of Namor pulling one down into the water, and Iceman and Angel working together to destroy one, which was really cool. I don't think they actually destroyed him, though. And you got all kinds of cameos. This book is probably full of almost every X-Men that's actually on Utopia, which is pretty cool. So this is probably, I think I voted for it being the best book of the week, because I definitely enjoyed it the most. And maybe that's just because I'm on the X-Men kick at the moment, but I think it's really great, despite all the weirdness the Emma Frost thing and what's going to happen with that. They're all going to forget that they met her. And now the Brotherhood's attacking the main X-Men to try to take over. I'm sure it's for the best of everybody, but still. So there you go. X-Men number 13. I will give it a 5 out of 5 this week because it's the best one that's there that I bought, at least. The art is really great. You got a really rich X-Men story with a bunch of different attacks from different X-Men happening at the same time. You got a cool villain. You got Magneto being cool, and then you got new history being brought up all over it too. So it's a great book. X-Men number 13, 5 out of 5 this week. That's it for this one. Thanks for listening and paying attention this week. If you want to check out my other reviews, look for Spidey207 on YouTube or Peteparker on the Marvel and DC databases or iFanboy or Comic Find. Any of those. If you have any questions or suggestions for me, leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.